He was reacting to the Supreme Court ruling tonight permitting immigration officials to deport alleged gang members under the 18th Century Alien Enemies Act for now. And there are new limits. The court said that those being deported need to get adequate notification that they're subject to the wartime authority and be allowed to have their removal reviewed. Perspective now from CNN senior legal analyst Elie Honig, former federal prosecutor. So what does that mean they get to have their case, or the chance to have their case reviewed?
So, Anderson, those are the really important guardrails that the Supreme Court put in tonight. Now, this is a win for the Trump administration because the majority here, the 6 conservative justices, said that the deportation process under the Alien Enemies Act can continue, can resume for now. The liberals wanted to keep it all on pause. But the 2 key guardrails that you hit on, first of all 9 justices agree that any deportee under this act does have a right to go to the courts and to challenge it. And the second part is they have to be given reasonable advance notice so that they actually, as a practical matter, can get to the courts and not be whisked away in the middle of the night like was originally done in this case.
The White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller, posted on X in reference to someone who had been removed from the U.S. under this act was, quote, ineligible for any form of relief under the law. The only process he was entitled to was deportation. So it sounds like the Supreme Court did not exactly agree with that.
That's flat out wrong by Stephen Miller. Even the 6 conservative justices say anyone is allowed to go into court to challenge this. The difference, though, is that the majority, the conservative justices, said you have to do it through this thing called habeas, which has to be filed in the district where the actual person is being held. The liberals wanted to give broader rights to challenge this in court, more broadly geographically and with respect to how they challenge it. But what Stephen Miller says there is straight up wrong. Everyone agrees you can challenge this in court.
All right, Elie Honig, thanks very much. Also tonight, the Supreme Court has paused a midnight deadline that would have forced the Trump administration to bring back a Maryland man who was deported out of the U.S. to El Salvador on March 15th. And what the government admitted in a court filing last week was what they called an administrative error. Now, today's order came down from Chief Justice Roberts after the Trump administration appealed a lower court's decision that had put the midnight deadline in place. The Supreme Court didn't give any kind of timeline of when they expect to actually rule on the case. That means that the man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who's a Salvadoran national, is going to remain in that notorious El Salvador prison for now. By the way, the Department of Justice's own attorney who argued this case in a lower court just last week, he admitted in court he had limited information and couldn't answer many of the judge's questions. He seemed frustrated, as did the judge. That did not sit well with Attorney General Pam Bondi. She's now placed that government attorney on administrative leave.